Jim, what is up, my guy?
You are. You are. I was just finishing up a message with somebody else, and I wanted to get that done. So we're good to go. How are you today?
I'm doing fantastic. I think the real word is supposed to be phenomenal, right?
Phenomenal. Yeah, I love that from our top rep stuff. That's where we met. And when you ask somebody how they're doing, things like phenomenal, fantastic, amazing, all of those like send out a different vibe to somebody instead of saying I'm fine, right? Like that's kind of boring.
It's a great way to build a relationship and build some rapport there for sure because, day in and day out, it seems like you can deal with the same things, so to speak. And when something takes you out of the normal, it gives you new excitement.
Yeah.
So let's start with you introducing yourself and maybe how did you get to where you're at today?
I don't know. I'm not exactly sure where I'm at today. It's funny. My name is Jim Johnson. I have a coaching business where we coach contractors really throughout the nation, but also all over the world. We've coached people in Canada, South America, Australia, England. Like it's been pretty wild to do that. My background prior to that is I was always kind of around the trades early on. I got into the industry of home services in 1998, really. And so I've been, what is that, 25, 6 years or so been doing that. I've been a salesperson, I've been a sales manager, a general manager, an owner, a software designer. I sold my software to Acculinks, became their director of sales for the first 5 years they were in business, with my job to make a thing a thing. I think we did okay. A lot of people know what that stuff is nowadays, which has turned out pretty well. And through all of that, I started meeting all these contractors and I would sell them the software pretty quickly. But then there was a million questions because I had built a pretty decent business before, running 25, $30 million a year. And they were wondering like how I did it. Like, how did you hire all those people? How did you develop your processes? What kind of sales system did you use? Those type of questions. And I went, maybe somebody should help with this. And so 12 years ago, I resigned from Acculinks. I took a little time off to kind of get things organized and started coaching with just a couple of companies, kind of thinking like semi retirement. Did pretty well, sold my business and did the Acculinks thing. And I said, well, I'll coach a couple of companies and then go golf and fish in the afternoon. That's kind of the game plan. And then it was four, then it was eight, then it was 16, and then 22. And I was like, back to working more than I really wanted to work, but people needed the help. And so we brought on other coaches at this point. We help in 12 different aspects of the business. And it's because you need to look at the business holistically, not just one area. It's funny, like when we talk to contractors in that first interview, a lot of the times they know the right thing to do or even are might be doing the right thing. It's just at the wrong time. They're trying to do something that should be done when they're at level three, four, or five, when they're at level one or two. And so when we clear those things up and make it easy, we build out a roadmap, implement those things. We have been pretty successful at increasing contractors' results significantly within the first 12 months to 3 years and beyond. Some of my clients I've coached for 8, 9 years now. It's been pretty awesome.
Yeah, that's absolutely crazy. What do you think it is that makes a person want to skip those few couple steps? Like you said, you're supposed to be at two and you're at three, four, and five. What do you think gets a contractor? Do you think it's the future thinking, or do you think it's just themselves kind of getting mixed signals, so to speak?
Oh, this is going to sound so bad. Um, because this word has a connotation to it that people go, "Oh, that's bad." But it's literally ignorance. It's just, and don't take ignorance as a negative word. It's just not knowing what you need to know. You think about who gets into our business, right?
Mhm.
It's usually one of two sides of a coin. They're either really good at the work they do, and somebody asks them to do a job on the side. right? And they do that and they do good work there. Then they get a referral and then a referral and then a referral. And all of a sudden they're doing more of that than they were on the other. And all of a sudden they have a business on their hands. So they kind of think technician. They're the ones doing the work. And on the other side of the coin, you got that salesperson, that person that can generate sales and opportunities. And either one of those two people jump into this world and say, "Hey, I'm going to start this business doing this thing," but they don't have any like real business background or acumen. They don't understand finances. They don't understand systems and processes. They don't understand leadership as well as they need to. They don't understand how to hire people and keep those people and cast a vision and do the things that are necessary for a business to be successful. And then as they start that, they think like, when I start, I'm going to be that thing over there. So they know what that looks like. They know what the outcome is, and because that's the outcome, they're seeing what they're doing and they want to do that. Like, hey, I need to go invest, $8,000 into marketing, or I need to go hire an army of salespeople, or like those type of things. But you're putting the cart before the horse, as they say, and you're not developing your systems and processes. You're not building your leadership skills. You're not setting proper accountability situations. You don't understand finances, and so you actually might have some success. You might get those leads or you might make those sales, but then it all crumbles underneath you. And that's why about 82% of contractors fail within the first 3 years is they don't have that foundational stuff that they need.
How much have you seen a company or a contractor themselves increase their value by recognizing that and taking care of that problem?
Well, depends. When we work with somebody, it's pretty much a guarantee. We're at least going to double their revenue and increase their profit by about 30-40% in that first 12 months. We 92% of the people that we've coached over our 12 years are still in business or have sold or decided to exit for a specific reason, not because they went out of business. And we're really proud of that. Like this idea that, hey, we get this foundation part because so many contractors are focused on that operational side where there's marketing and sales, recruiting, and all the other good stuff. That's actually kind of the easy stuff. That's where the charismatic visionary leader type person really shines. It's all the detail work that they struggle with. But if they'll do that work and get those things in place, the likelihood of success is 10 times what it would be without it.
Yeah, I think it's important to do that self deep dive and to focus on the hard things rather than the easy things because it's so easy to just focus on those simple things. And like you said, that's when your foundation starts to just fall apart because you're like, oh, I'll take care of this later. I'll take care of this later, and before you know it, it's so far gone you can't take care of it, or you forget to take care of it. How hard was it for you to transition from AccuLinks to the contractor side?
Well, I had been a contractor before, so and fairly successful. I don't know, 25, 30 million. I helped a company grow to 40 million. Um, I got some really good experience. Prior to all of that, way back in the day, I had worked in a very high performing sales industry and company. I was in the health club world. And if you've ever been to a health club to buy a health club membership, yeah, we're pretty good sales guys. And and they realized that I had a knack for it. There's a little bit of talent there, and they wanted to improve my skills. And so they invested in me pretty heavily. They sent me to every sales thing you could possibly go to: Zig Ziglar, Tom Hawkins, Sandler sales, spin selling, like all the different things. And not just to like go for a day or two or a seminar or that type of thing, like going through the full certifications to get certified. And what that did is it allowed me to kind of rise up in the company, end up being vice president of sales, and then casting our entire sales vision. And so I had this background coming into this, that I had a skill set that isn't usually all that prevalent in our industry. Being able to take that and apply it to my business allowed me to grow my business pretty quickly because I had that business background and understanding from before. Being a vice president, a little more about how a business works than you do as just a salesperson or a technician. So That part was foundational. Then I go over to the AccuLink side of things, and what really happened there is I knew pretty well how to run one of these companies really well, but I didn't know everything. That's the thing. You kind of live in a silo of your own business and you don't really get outside. You kind of got blinders on of what's happening. And back in those days, people didn't share information like they do today. Man, if I had what is available today just in YouTube and out there in Instagram and stuff, I don't know if it would have helped me or hurt me because it might be a little confusing because there's so much of it and you have to pick what's right and what's wrong for you. But just the knowledge that's available today is wild to me. You didn't have that back then, and you kind of lived in a silo. And I still see that a lot. Like people even have all this knowledge and wisdom that's available to them, but they stay in their own little world and don't get out and learn anything new or investigate anything. But I was in the back office of over 1,200 contractors. I thought I knew the thing pretty well, but I'm like, wow, that's pretty good. I should remember that. Wow, that's pretty good. I should remember that. Ooh, that's awful. Nobody should ever do that. And so ixnay that. And so when I went into the coaching side of things after AccuLinks, I had a pretty good idea of what it was that made a company successful or not, the systems, the processes, but I still wasn't quite there yet. It really took another 2 or 3 years of actually coaching people for me to identify and have this epiphany that there were two sides of the business, this foundational side and this operational side. And everybody was over here on this operational side getting more leads and trying to make more sales and hire more people without looking too much at their foundational side. And the real epiphany in all of that is there was an order to it. And that's the part that like broke my brain. It's why I had to write a book. I wrote the book Contractor's Blueprint about this because there's actually a blueprint to building one of these businesses. First thing is those two sides. So if you think like human DNA, maybe is the best way to kind of think about this. Everybody I think knows what a DNA helix looks like. It's got two backbones on it, and then all these little things that connect it. Well, the two backbones are foundation operational, and then we have 12 connectors or components that make up the DNA of a business. And so on that front side, the foundational side, you have leadership, culture, um, systems and processes, HR, finance, and accountability, those six. And if we understand what those are and we build those things out, we have the ability to manipulate the DNA of the business and choose to make this beautiful thing that grows into an amazing, awesome deal. And they're in the right place so that I can then do the operational stuff really well. But if you think about those six things I just named, they actually happen in an order. If I can't lead really well, I'm never going to build a good culture. And anybody can be a leader. That's one of those things I just really wish people understood is that leadership isn't like God touched you and went, oh, you're a leader. There's actually skills to this. There's skills that anybody can learn if they want to be a leader badly enough. They'll invest the time and energy to be a great leader. And if you are, a great leader builds great culture and develops great culture. And that culture then defines the systems and processes and things like that, which then turns into, and I hate the term HR, human resources. We don't use that term, but it is the common terminology out there. So you wouldn't know what I was talking about. But we use the term team performance. How do we get our team to perform at a high level? Well, we have to have great communication, understanding, expectations, those type of things. And that's what HR supposed to be. It isn't in most companies. Most companies think of it as job description, handbooks, and how to hire and get rid of people. But it's really more about team performance. And if we can have a team that performs really well, we understand our finances and how those work, we can now have this accountability thing that holds everybody accountable to accomplishing the mission that we're after. And so we set proper expectations, we set standards, and we don't allow for anything below those. And so if we have all that established, that then leads into the other six things, which are operational. What technologies will we use to execute what we're going to do? How are we going to market? And what's our marketing strategy going to be? Because you think about it, if you don't market and you don't have a strategy for that, there's nothing to sell in the first place. Nobody's raising their hand. And so they happen in this order: tech, then marketing, then sales, and a great sales process, and one that closes deals at a high level. Like I said, you and I met at Top Rep, so we talk about that quite a bit. But then after sales, you got to do something else. It's called production or
Mhm.
fulfillment. And if you don't have systems and processes for that, and how you're going to wow a client and blow their mind that, wow, this is just an unbelievable experience, it doesn't go too well. And then the last two are training and then recruiting, hiring, and onboarding. But funny enough, I would say at least half of the people that come to us are all about that last thing. How do I recruit and hire more people to grow my business? I go, hey, we can help you. We're awesome at it. We know how to hire a bunch of people. But I have a question for you. If you hire them, how are you going to train them? If you're going to train them, how's it going to get built? And if it's going to get built, how are you going to sell it to get it built? And if you're going to sell it, how are you going to actually get leads to sell to? And all of that, how are you going to track it all and use technology that's prevalent in our world today to optimize and prioritize the things that are important? That gets people thinking. They start to see the order then. And then I kind of take that step back, and then how do you hold them accountable? How do you understand finances so you can pull the right levers at the right time? How is your team going to perform, and what does that performance look like? Then get back to systems and processes, then culture, and then leadership. And so it's this, they happen in order, but they're also in sync. When you do one, it affects another. And if we don't understand those things and we don't get really deep and have some wisdom about how to grow a business, we can certainly do it through hard work and school of hard knocks type learning. But what happens is you get 3, 4 years down the road and you missed all these important things, like, I don't know, um, whether you're insured properly or not. And boom, you're out of business overnight because you have a $250,000 fine that you didn't even know existed out there. And that's our job, is to prevent those things that people aren't aware of from happening so that they can build a business that's a well-oiled machine that allows them to live the life that they've been dreaming about all this time without sacrificing what's important to them. So that's kind of what we do.
Yeah, I find that really amazing how it's so easy to just jump half of those steps. And
Oh,
then you look back and you wonder why. But then when you break it down like that, it all starts to make sense. It's just like the sales process that you guys teach.
yeah. Well, I think people don't like hard work. They like easy buttons
That's
and shiny objects and stuff like that. The ones that are successful are willing to do the hard work. I've never seen anything great that didn't take hard work to do. So, can you have some success? For sure. You want to have that long term success that really is impactful and meaningful and valuable. You got to do the dirty work.
yeah, and you brought out this thing which I heard it in Columbus, Ohio, but you also brought it out there in Phoenix with the prosperous human. And I was
Yeah.
hoping you would expand on that a little bit because I think that's absolutely awesome what you're doing there.
Well, I've never been one to do a thing for a very long period of time. Up until coaching, the longest I had ever been anywhere was usually 4 or 5 years, at least in the position. Like, I'm in this position, move to another position, move to another position. But more often than not, I moved from this thing that I'm doing to this other new thing. And I tend to be wired for new challenges and stuff like that. Um, and I grow. I think a lot of people do that. You kind of grow out of whatever it is that you're doing, and you end up getting bored. Like, oh wow, I can do that over and over again, and there's not any more challenge left in it. I need a new challenge, and that's kind of where I'm at right now. I'm evolving a little bit. Might be a really good term. And so I'm still helping and coaching contractors. I have this mastermind group of contractors that's amazing to work with. Here recently, there's been this need for somebody that's like a mentor to folks that can't afford our one on one coaching. And so we're going to do this group thing that allows people to get the advice they need to do the right thing at the right time. and and do that as a group. And I'm finding that I really like working in group settings even more than the one-on-one stuff. Where my right hand man Nathan really loves the one-on-one stuff. So I'm going to help get people prepared and build that business that is struggling to get to the point to where they can take the next step. I want to help those guys in a group setting, and then I got my guys that are 20-30 million dollars that are trying to like up level. And then the the outcome of all that is we've realized that we've been doing two things at once where most people think we're doing one thing. Most people think we're helping people build big businesses. And that's not really the goal. The goal is to build the business of their dreams so they can live the life that they want without sacrificing what's important. So there's this personal and business side that I think a lot of coaching companies don't focus too much on the personal side. And a couple of years ago, I went to an event that I was invited to where there was a lot of leaders there that I kind of almost felt uncomfortable being around. Like I kind of looked up at them, and I come to find out that they're doing the same thing at me. Like they're looking up to me, like we're all doing that to each other. Like, man, that's an amazing thing you're doing. Um, and I felt like I was in a room I wasn't supposed to be in, only to be told you're here because you're supposed to be here. And somebody at that event asked the question, is there anything you do that's unique that allows you to live a good life? And that word unique was really important to that question because I've been asked before, why are you the way you are, or things like that. And that opens an opportunity for me to talk about my faith and this guy that's my savior, and he's pretty awesome. Um, but I've never been asked that question in that fashion before, this unique thing. I'm sitting there, I'm like, I'm super excited because this is something I've studied, I've put a lot of time into for 20 years because I was an awful human being at one point. I was terrible, narcissistic, egotistical, selfish, you name all the ones, I was that person. And God kind of allowed me to do what I was doing so that I would fail. And I did. A pretty big failure to the point of bookkeeper stealing 585 grand from us, my business being compromised dramatically, facing foreclosure, bankruptcy, all the things, right? And my life changed overnight. I went from being selfish to hopefully being a servant, selfless as much as possible, and that helped a lot to start feeling right about the way I was living and living this life that was worthy. And I also found that I wasn't running into the same problems and issues and challenges anymore, but there were still these gaps and holes. Where it's still like something's missing. Don't know what it is. Want to figure out what it is. And I tend to be an inquisitive and observant individual. So I started studying it. And over about a 10-year time period, I kind of learned that there's seven things that I, as a human being, needed for me to find a way to make sense of this life that we're living because it's short. We don't have all that much time when you look at the big scheme of things. And I wanted to make the time that I have worthwhile. Wanted to feel fulfillment. Also didn't want to feel burdened and just weighed down all the time. And so studying all that, and then I get asked this question, what's unique? And I'm waiting for everybody else because I've studied it so much, lived it for a while. I'm like, what am I missing? And what does the other guys have? And what are they doing? And nobody says anything. There's like 30 of some of the best leaders in the country sitting in there. And I'm like, okay, I have a thing. And I kind of raised and and the guy leading the thing, his name's John Maxwell, probably the most prominent uh, business leaderish type person out there that exists right now. Um, Says, well, what is it? And I said, well, it's this way I live a prosperous life. It's based on these seven things, and it's allowed me to live free. I don't feel burdened. I don't feel anxious. I don't feel bored. I don't feel these things that tend to weigh people down and cause people to live in the extremes. And he goes, okay. That's great. Well, you have 15 minutes tomorrow to give a presentation. So, okay. I wasn't planning on giving a presentation here, but put it together. We discussed it. I shared it with everybody. And then the questions just were nonstop. Like, what about this? And what about that? And what do you think about this and that thing? And there's just all these questions. And there were questions like, where did, I learn this and how did I come up with it? And I explained all this stuff. We get all done and we're all walking out. And I get told, or maybe asked is a better way to put it, by one of the guys, like, hey, you do realize this isn't just for you, right? And I go, nope, not really. That was my way of making sense of things. And they're like, no, man, like you just like cleared up a huge thing for us. I went, oh, that's awesome. So we go on for a couple days, and at the end of our time together, one of the kind of the right hand man to John Maxwell comes over, taps me on the shoulder. He says, "Hey, John wants to talk to you for a minute." I'm like, "Okay, cool." So we walk off into another room. There's some tables set up. Nobody's in the room. It's just John and this right hand man and me. And he goes, "So what are you going to do with this thing?" I go, "Keep living it." He goes, "You need to do something with this. You got to put this out there to the world. It's a different way of seeing things." Because I think so many people see things as I'm either empty or full, right?
Mhm.
I
Mhm.
and a lot of times they can't put their finger on the thing. I think we all kind of probably know mind, body, spirit. I think that's a pretty common thing that we hear out there, but we don't hear about work fulfillment, time prioritization that leads to financial security. We don't hear about impact. We don't hear about these things that we have a hard time putting our finger on, that we don't even realize we're missing as human beings. That if we could just put our finger on it, then we could start to do something about it. And so I always looked at it as empty or full for a very long time until I started to realize that it was more positive and negative. There was an extreme over here that was tended to be obsessive or outrageous or whatever, right? Like, let's use work, for example. There's those people that work 80 to 100 hours a week. I was one of those people for a longest time because I thought that was the only way to do it, like how to get ahead and how to accomplish something amazing. But then there's also these people over here on the other side of the spectrum that are bored and they're just surviving and they're just going to work each day to do their thing to just make it every day. And somewhere between those two things that are positive and negative, which are both corrosive and will tear you down, there's this place called the sweet spot where I have a little bit of healthy tension pushing me without sacrificing all those things that matter to me. And sharing it in that way, nobody had really seen that before. And he's like, got to write a book. You got to do a podcast. You got. I'm like, John, time out, man. I got a business over here that I'm already doing and running. So for the last 2 years, I have been navigating, up leveling some leadership in my company to allow people to take over in areas that I'm not going to be able to do as much of anymore. I've brought people on to take on things that I wasn't great at anyway, so they can do and they love, which has been wonderful, to build space to allow me to do what I'm truly passionate about, what I feel like God put me on this planet for. And I want other people to live a prosperous life. The funny thing is, I don't know what it's going to become yet. I just know I'm putting it out there, and it's resonating with people. I'm getting lots of comments. I'm getting lots of people going, "Yeah, like I feel like that," and they're going through the workbook. That we have a free workbook for it and free video course for it. And then all the questions happen, which is what happened to me. Like, oh, community. I have a problem with community. My circles that I'm in connection with, I'm not connected the way I need to be, and so I need to spend more time with my wife and kids. It's part of our responsibility. And I wanted to. I was sacrificing them for my work. So how do I still achieve my goals and give them the time? That's where I had to get past the ignorance part. I had to go learn something new, a different way of doing work that allowed me to achieve my goals, and still not sacrifice them. And so these are the things you start to peel back the layers of the onion on and living a prosperous life. I want to make people aware that you don't have to work 80 to 100 hours a week. As a matter of fact, I work about 20 to 30, and I probably accomplish 10 times more than a normal person because I have knowledge of how to do these things much faster. It's not that hard. It's just, have you gone and learned it or not? You don't even know it exists unless you go out there and investigate. So, for lack of a better term, I'm evolving. I'm going to help people hopefully live a good life, with the idea being that they take that knowledge and share it, start to bring it to others, because I'm tired of seeing a world that's divided and living in the extremes. And I want to see us all live in the sweet spot together.
Have you ever read the book The Gap in the Game?
Yeah, yeah, the gap in
How
the game
much
is great.
how much do you think you were living in that time? How much do you think you were living in the gap?
Um, Sometimes I didn't even know what the gap was, right? I didn't know what that thing was. We tend to always be looking for the gain, right?
Right.
We never look back at like, hey, what have I actually done and accomplished and achieved? And we don't even take a moment to be proud of what and pride is a dangerous thing. We should be cautious of that. But
Mhm.
I'm proud of some of the things I've done. I'm also like, wow, I wish I hadn't have done those things. And so you would learn from both sides of those. And then one of the things that frustrates me is this idea of like the only way to learn is through trial and error, failing forward. And I just think it's silly. Like if somebody else has done it, why don't I just go get it from them? Some people you can just ask and they'll give it to you. That's a great mentor. Usually somebody close in your community that you just walk up to and say, "Hey, I see you're doing great things. I want to be able to do great things like that. Would you mind giving me some advice every once in a while?" It's a great place to start. But then the next like step is peer groups, PEER. So people like you in the same situation as you, but led by a mentor. That's something you actually usually pay for. The first one, hey, it's free advice, but it's not regular or anything like that. And it's not accountability. It's just advice. Or when you get into a peer group, there's some accountability that goes along with it. And that's the one that actually propels you. And so I think most people live in the gain. Like this is the outcome. And that's the thing I'm focused on. And they're already there without enjoying the journey or the quest, as one of my friends likes to say, Ryan Kettering. Enjoy the quest, ask the questions, go and follow the path. And that, like, if you trust that process on a daily basis, that, hey, I'm doing this quest, the outcome's already determined. Just relax. It's going to be okay.
Yeah, because that can lead to always, you know, it comes to that point where you have to be satisfied on the inside because you can always be looking for that next shiny thing. And once you
Mm,
actually achieve that, you're actually disappointed when you get there because you still want more.
yeah, I think there's a huge problem in the world with that. Um, this idea of always wanting more, or feeling like we're not enough, like that type of. Guess what? You're not. Nobody is enough, nor will they ever be enough. And that's something you might not hear from anybody else because everybody else is telling you you're enough. Now, according to our creator, we're enough, and that's cool. But you're never going to be enough by yourself to accomplish any of the big things that you want to do. It's going to take other people. And together, you just might be enough to do that big thing. But if you think you're going to do it on your own and you're going to be this like hard driver and all that stuff, nobody's ever achieved anything great by themselves. And even if it looks like they learned something from somebody else along the way. They read a book, they did a study, they had some advice, they had a mentor. There was all these things. And then who knows, maybe they had a couple of people. But it's when you start taking the spotlight on you that that's a problem because you're just going to want more and more of that. And I don't know. I'm at so much peace with. I'm not worried about how big of a company I build. I'm not worried about the amount of revenue or profit that my company creates. I'm more worried about the process that we do each day to do it well, not grind, not extreme, not lazy or procrastinate, just well every day. Do it well. Enjoy the journey. Realize what it is that I'm doing every day to create this masterpiece that God put me on this planet to do. I'm unique. I think we all are. We all work differently. There isn't a, there isn't, I don't think there's this recipe because that's what people sell a lot of. There's these recipes like, right? This is how you have, um, and it makes it easy to sell something, but each person's unique. And so each person's unique means there's a unique approach to their life. Like for me, I am a person that likes to get up in the morning and get the first 3 hours in before anybody else wakes up because that's where I get my exercise in. That's where I get my thinking time in and stuff like that. I got another buddy that's just as good at executing life as what I feel like I am, and which isn't great at this point. I'm doing the best I can. But that dude doesn't wake up till 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock in the morning. He does all his stuff in the evening. So, hey, there's not this one way. There's the way that's right for you. And you've got to take the time to investigate, not just gaining knowledge, right? Like there's so much information. I saw somebody the other day. It was a great way of looking at things. Instead of seeing if you can read 3 books in whatever amount of time, how about read the same book 3 times? Which one do you think you'll get more out of?
Reading the same book 3 times.
Absolutely. So we have to think about the books we're going to read, not just read a bunch of books. I myself, I only read 4 books a year. So I have to be really judicious and like, which book am I going to read? So that moves rankings of books higher and higher, a little research into, hey, do I really want to read this book? And then when I do, I read it through like it's a master's level course in college. I'm highlighting, I'm making notes, I'm seeing if I can memorize things. I'm making it a part of me because knowledge, while important, it doesn't do anything for you except for be potential. It has potential because you have the knowledge, but if you don't understand what you've learned, that potential is unrealized. Because once you understand what you learn, you now have insight that allows you this cool thing called wisdom to give you discernment. So, this idea of choosing between what's right and what's wrong for your next move on your path. And I think if we would just slow down for a second and go a little deeper, we could be successful a lot quicker and faster than what we think we're supposed to do by gathering as much knowledge as possible. And I think we're actually hungry for it. I
Mhm.
think we're hungry for depth. I'm watching like what's happening in social media out there, and there's a whole big group of people, about 80% of them that are still out there ripping on each other and tearing each other down and negativity and all the other stuff. But that 20% that used to be the positive folks out there, they're moving to other places where they're surrounding themselves with other people like that because our environment has everything to do with how we're going to grow. And I'll be honest, yeah, my team puts my social media stuff out because we still want to be the light in the darkness if we can, salt and light, that type of thing. But I'm not on there. I stay away from that. I go spend my time in a new thing, and it's not that new, but Substack. Not a lot of people have seen that yet, but it's a place where I see other people creating really amazing things. They're inspiring to me. They give me things to consider and think about, and which allows me to take and write even more. And I'm hungry for that, and I think most people are. They just don't know where it is right now. So I think they're hungry for 2 things. I think they're hungry for more depth and wisdom, And I think they're hungry for this thing that's missing in their life because they've made them the most important thing, and we're not.
Mhm.
It's others that are important. And I hope through that you find that he's important. So I don't know. That's where I stand right now on things. And this is through a lot of study, a lot of time, a lot of just digging in and actually trying to prove those concepts wrong or false. That's my everyday effort. If there's something I believe in, I'm constantly after this. How do I prove that wrong? Am I on the wrong path? Because I don't want to live a lie. I think that's a terrible approach to life. Because what happens if you do? What happens if you continue to lie to yourself that this thing's important or that thing's important, this political party or that political party or this amount of money or whatever it is? And it all comes down to the end and you realize I lived a lie the entire time because I used to believe those things were important and I went to prove them wrong and I was able to. These other things I haven't been able to prove wrong. Until I do, I'm going to continue to live that way because in the end, I want to live a life where the folks that I have been in relationship with say I was a net positive. That's just that simple.
That's amazing. I don't even want to add to anything to that because I couldn't have said it any better myself. And I think it comes down to that question you asked, what do you believe and why do you believe it?
And is it true?
And is it true? Because so many people, you know, culture has such a huge influence on us, especially in today's world.
Mm,
And so many people can start to try to live with that culture instead of
yeah.
living for what's right to them in my world, which would be living for Christ, right? And so you can get so wrapped up, you can take your focus off of Christ and keep it on the culture. Like you said, you get wrapped up in those things that don't even matter just because someone else is doing it. So it comes
Yeah.
down to that question. It comes down to that question, like you said, what do you believe and why do you believe it?
Yeah. That's like three core questions that really started me on this whole journey. Because I always believed these other things. I always believed that this is the path to success. This is the type of money I needed to make. These are the type of houses I need to buy. All this stuff, right? And when I questioned that for the first time, I then had to question, well, why do I believe that? What led me to that belief system? Well, a lot of it was the environment and upbringing that I had. A lot of it was my friends and what they were doing. A lot of it was the people that I idolized and wanted to be like. But did I really want to? And did I need to? And finally, it was, what is all that true? And what I found is it's not. Um, and once you do like get there, it's like all that's off now. Okay, none of that worry or responsibility or any. I just want to do what I'm wired to do really, really well. Takes a lot of the burden off. And I think when we are, I shared this, I think maybe at the event we were at together. I can tell anybody what they desire. And it's simple, really. What do you think about the most? What do you talk about the most? And what do you do the most? And I think folks might focus on certain things like money or the thing they want to buy or the amount of sales they want to make. Or do they really think about their family? Or are they thinking about what they want to provide to their family? And why do they want to provide it to their family? Is it for them or is it for them? Right.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I really, really challenge people to consider, what do you desire? Because whatever you desire is your idol. And if you're desiring something above what's important, and I don't care who you are, um, there are things more important than your desires and the desires of your family and others. And really, of our creator and maker. When we get to there, you start going, oh, it's not all about me anymore. And I'll tell you what, you'll never be more fulfilled than when you make it about them. When you make living life about somebody else and the impact that you can have on them, when you see that impact actually happen, it's very fulfilling. That's why I'm on your podcast today.
Very fulfilling. But then when you get there and you're focused on your when you're self-centered like that, you don't have anything. You feel absolutely nothing.
Yeah, you're alone at the finish line and you didn't even enjoy the journey while you were doing it.
I forget who told me this. I've heard it. I mean, I've heard this since I was a little kid, but the winner loses everything.
Mm.
And
That
to some extent, I believe that.
well, so let's put that to the test. I believe it. Why do you believe it?
Probably because I heard it for so long.
You heard it for so long. Somebody that was important to you shared that with you over and over, started to
Right,
become a thing.
right.
But then, okay, so that's why I believe it. The other thing you probably reason you believe it is you've observed others, right? Like seen
Yes.
others like cross the finish line or win and then have nobody or nothing out of it that they thought they were going to get, right?
Yeah. And I think
But
another thing
I
that
have one
really
more question for you, real quick on that. But is there any example that you can think of where that isn't true? Have you seen somebody win, even just one person win, that they did have the people there that love them at the end? They did have what they thought they were chasing. They did have fulfillment. They did have joy. Have you ever seen somebody do that?
I would have to think on that one.
I have. I've seen lots of people. And if we just look for them, it doesn't mean they have a lot of money. I want to be very cautious in that, right? But they have a family that loves them and a family they love. They have um, people that they've influenced, impacted. They walk around with joy. They seem light and unburdened, and they add value to others. They're winning. So if they're winning, is what I thought true? Maybe not.
I think I just got uncovered one of my own paradigms. But another instance that I was thinking why I wouldn't believe that is because there was a point in my life where I was trying so hard to do what other people were doing because they were where I wanted to be. And I was trying on my own strength and I was trying from the outside and I never got there.
Yeah.
So I was a failure in that point of my life.
Yeah. Why are we?
That's how I understood that.
Yeah. You felt like, hey, I'm trying to be like all that stuff. You look at Chuck or any other the
who,
the black
who
shirt
doesn't
or any of that stuff, right? You look at
who
all those.
doesn't want to be Chuck?
I don't. I don't. I don't want to be Chuck. I now don't get me wrong. I love Chuck for who Chuck is. I want to be Jim.
Yes,
I want to
yes,
be Jim, this unique human being that
100%.
adds value to other folks. It doesn't mean I am great by any means. It just means I'm great with me.
Right.
Um, I learned a long time ago, you're always going to find somebody a little better than you. I don't care how good you get. There's always going to be somebody that's better than you at one of the things, whatever it
Hmm.
is. And the second that you think you're the best, there's going to be another one that's better than you. It's okay. Like, that's not what we're designed to be, the best pinnacle um, on a pedestal human being that all the others look at. We're actually designed to be the foundation of the pedestal that lifts others up. And so, why not be that? Why not be okay with that? Why not know that whatever you're putting out in your world is what you're supposed to for others when it comes to you truly knowing your identity? It's when we don't know our identity that everything comes apart on us.
How did you go about finding your identity? Did you
Mm,
ever do you ever feel like you don't even know?
oh yeah, there are a lot of times I didn't know, um, And I think we have one. Sometimes we don't know what it is, but we have one. And again, that's kind of that desire thing, right? Like, okay, my identity is in the money I make. That proves whether I have been successful or not successful. My identity is in the competition I win. My identity is the family that I have supported and were responsible for. While some of those may seem good and some of those may seem maybe questionable, that you're finding your identity in that. Um, Like, for example, my identity could be wrapped up in Contractor Coach Pro and how well all of my contractors have done in the Facebook likes and Google reviews and all that other stuff. It's not wrapped up in that at all. My identity is in Christ. Like, that's where my identity comes from. It was pretty simple. Love God with all your heart, soul, and mind. And the second is like it, love them. Okay, that's my identity. That's what I'm going to do. When I got to there finally, after all the lies and temptations of everything else out there in the world, it was like the pressure came off. This is who I am. My purpose is to love him, love others, be a disciple, which is a student and a sharer of what it is that you learn. Everything gets really easy. I think everybody's all after what their purpose is, and we've already been told what that is if you're a believer. If you're not a believer, hey, maybe check it out. It's pretty cool. Um, but if you're a believer, you know your purpose. What you don't know, maybe, is how to act out your purpose. Because you have this disconnect between, okay, I get it. My purpose is to live in this fashion, to do these things, right? And I know what I do for a living. The connecting is how I do it. And I don't care what it is that you do. You could be a janitor at a school. You could be a CEO of a multi-million dollar company or billion dollar company or trillion dollar nowadays. Um, how you do that job is a representative of your desire and your identity. And do you have identity in the world, the temptations of the world, or do you have an identity in a creator who loves and cares for you? And it may not seem like it all the time, but there are reasons that the things that happen. Some are brought on ourselves, some just happen and we don't have an explanation for. But if I hold my identity in that instead of in me, because at some point you run out of capacity and ability, you run out of answers to the problems. And that's when most of us have that epiphany moment and go, I'm out of answers. Hey, God, what do I do now? Um, First time that happened in my life, I was 35 years old. I'd always had the answer up until that point. I ran out of answers because I was my own idol. I was my own authority. I was the owner. I'm not anymore. I'm actually a servant. I'm actually obedient. I'm actually all these things that aren't American Western culture type stuff. Power of ownership. You got to own your mistakes. You got to own, you got to own, you got to own, you got to be the top. No, it's not that at all. And it's so freeing to realize that, to realize like, I'm not in control. I'm not in charge. And I don't own anything. He owns it all. He's in charge and he has authority. Got it. Now, from if I know that, then how do I live it? Okay, here's the instruction and wisdom in the word. And here's the actions and the way to do it. You don't have to go beat people over the head with a Bible. You don't have to know you don't have to know every verse. You don't have to preach on a corner that hell is coming. As a matter of fact, the opposite is that. Go show other people love and care and mercy and justice. Do that and they will see him through you. It's that simple. And you can do any job that's out there, whether you're entrepreneur, salesperson, factory worker, or janitor, and do it that way. and you'll find that identity. You'll know what your identity is at that point. It's magical. It really is freeing. It's unbelievable. I didn't know we were gonna get in this conversation today. I hope I didn't blow up your podcast or anything.
Nope, you should have expected it from me.
Well well, here's and I hope people watch this, like, you've got me going down a road right now, and I wanna share something. Um, in American society, you can kinda see American society as like a, echo of European society. In Europe, only about 10% of the population attends church, and so they've started to do some new ways of what church is. Now, you come to America and you start to see the decline of church attendance in America.
Mm,
Um, and even maybe this questioning of God or not God and that type of thing, right? But the reality is, there's still this hunger out there in all of us that desires a relationship with our creator, and we haven't been able to like figure out what that is. And a lot of the people that don't go to church, if you ask them, like, hey, do you still believe in God or want to believe in God or want to take a journey towards feeling, yes, I do, please. There's this thing inside of us that's wired for that. So if that's true, and it is, the research and studies have been done, you can go and look it up, then church, the building, the traditional way of doing it is the problem. Because what's happened is they've been hurt. They've been hurt by the news and the stories of the big church guy that blows it, right? Whatever happens in that religion and that priest and like all the things that go along with the trappings um, of the traditional church, or the hypocrites they see, or the person not doing the right thing in church, and like I thought they were supposed to be this, right? And they're that. Well, first off, I'd rather have the person that's being tempted to do the not so great things in church than not in church. At least they maybe where there's a chance, right? But reality is people have been hurt, but they haven't lost this want or need to believe in a God. And I think that's because of the bigness of who we are as a country, the cities and the disconnect and all that stuff. And if we were to just go back, look at what worked and go and attempt to replicate that, I think we'd be in pretty good shape. This small community, the house churches, the place where we gathered together with people that we know and loved and cared for, that wasn't inconvenient. I don't have to drive an hour to go watch the rock band at church in a big stadium with a whole bunch of people I don't know. I'm going to go walk down the street to my neighbor's house. We're going to gather together and we're going to learn together. We're going to create relationship together. We're going to create relationship with our creator together. I think there's a need for the home church again. I would love to see it happen. I think you'd solve a lot of problems in our world today with that.
mm. Yeah, I think you could too, because like you said, you don't have to drive to see a rock band play when you're there to worship.
Yeah, and nothing against that. Like seriously,
No, no.
if I don't want people to leave their church that they love to go to a home church. I
Hmm.
just want to make a place for the people that don't have church to have what church really meant, which
Hmm.
if you go back and look at the root word for that, the root word for that in Greek is ecclesia, and it's the gathering. It's a gathering
Mm.
of community in God's name, where two or more are gathered in God.
Gathered in my name.
I am present. And so um, I want to pick up and lift up the leftovers that are so disenchanted with the way things have gone. I want to give them a place to be in relationship with God too.
Very good. Very wise words.
Well,
But
you
yeah.
think you think about where church is, like, hey, we got church and it got so big, we need these small groups, right? And that
Hmm.
tends to be what we see a lot of and where the successful churches are. Um, what if it was the other way around? What if the home churches were the first thing that led up to attending together in a bigger place? I think that'd be pretty cool.
That would
So,
be, yeah.
all right, now that everybody has turned off your podcast, no, just
Hopefully they're still here at this point. But yeah,
right.
no,
Hey,
I
if you are listening to this and you're hungry for any of this, feel free to reach out to me. Seriously.
yeah,
I'll
reach
talk to you
out
like
to
I'm not a pastor. I am not seminary taught, none of that kind of stuff. I've just been on a journey a little longer. And if you want to investigate into starting or picking up wherever you are and you don't know what to do next, I'm here.
I think the best way to turn when you're running out of answers is to God.
Amen on that.
And
I know
yeah,
I've been out of answers.
what you said about I think we were born with that not the identity, but I think we were born when he created us. I think he put that desire in us to know him
Yeah.
to a certain extent. And
Well,
it says in the Bible, I forget which chapter or which verse it was, but it does say that his desire is for all men to know him. Right. So
that
it
word
wasn't
no is really important there, by the way.
yes, yes. And it's his will that we would turn to him and know him. And I feel like he uses those low points in people's lives to get them to turn in the right direction.
Yeah. He doesn't say no of him. He says know him.
Know him.
Yeah. So it'd be like knowing your dad, not somebody else's dad, your dad. It's intimate. It's in relationship. It's also understanding where you stand in that relationship. Yeah, I could talk about this stuff all day long.
I could too.
The more I spend time there, the hungrier I get. And I
Mhm.
think I think most people, if they were to just take the first step, just investigate. You don't have to go to church. Um, Open up the Bible app and start reading a verse a day if this is something that you're feeling like there's a hunger for. That'll slowly turn into a devotional, which will then turn into maybe a Bible study, which will then turn into, hey, maybe I'll step my foot in that door and go check out a church. And oh, that was awful. Don't quit. Don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. Just because it didn't work out in one place doesn't mean you can't find community in another place.
And
Because
maybe someone's just trying to figure out maybe they've heard about Christianity, they've heard about Christ, and they've heard about God, but they're just not sure if he even exists. Like just talk to him, just ask him, like to do a work in your life. I think that's a good place to start as well.
yeah, I've had several friends in my life that have been like that their way was that. It was so dark or so alone or so frustrated or so anxious or whatever. Just the whole God, lead me to the right step that I need to take next with you. If you exist, allow that to be in front of me. The only problem is our ears open and our eyes open to see what that is. And I have a friend of mine that's been praying for something that allows him the opportunity not to have to travel and be home with his wife because it was hurting with him and his wife for his travels. And he's always kind of going and chasing the new money and stuff like that. And then he tells us, like, hey, I got this job opportunity to do something I really love to do and want to do. And I need you guys to pray about that. I'm like, well, wait a minute. I think it looks like an answer to me. Like, well, you don't need to like that. It seems like jump all over that thing. What are you waiting on? You just didn't even see the answer that you've been praying for. So those are challenging, I think, for most people. Just be aware. Have your
Mhm.
senses tuned to it.
Open your heart, not just your mind.
Yeah. And I want to make sure that I don't run over here.
Oh, you're good.
No, I have another appointment, so
Oh,
I'm
I'm
done.
sorry.
No, no, we're good. I just want to make sure that we get everything out. Is there anything else that you would like to have me share
Nope,
today?
I just like to close all my podcasts with a question that if you were to have any advice for anyone listening to this podcast, I mean, I think we covered most of it just now, but anyone either getting into the industry of maybe roofing or stepping out into something new, if you had any advice for them.
Never be scared of something that makes you uncomfortable. That's usually where you'll grow. When we
Mhm.
put ourselves in those places where we feel tension or uncomfortable or not enough, that's there for a reason to help you grow. Lean into it, even whenever it's challenge that you didn't invite and it's pressing you. Lean into it with the joy that you know you're going to come out the other side a better for it. So,
Some
any of this has provoked you, whether it's prosperous human, time with God, getting into sales, being in this industry, lean into it. Go get uncomfortable. Surprisingly, you'll probably grow a little bit and have something valuable that you can take with you the rest of your life.
Someone in our inner blueprint circle, he said, live life scared. If you're not living life scared, you're not growing. So I
Mm.
agree. I
Said to me, I'm like, what do I believe about that? Do I do why do I believe it? And then is it true? So I'm not saying there's truth in
yeah.
that or not truth in that. It's one I would go and like look at and go, should I live life scared? I don't. I don't live life scared in any way. I live life at peace, knowing
Mhm.
that by following my faith and doing my work well and trusting the process and enjoying the journey, whatever happens, whether good or bad, it was the outcome that was intended for where I need to be. And that gives me peace. Like I'm not worried
Mhm.
about it. I'm not scared. Now, I do agree with living in healthy tension, just enough pressure that I grow, not too much. So I would
Yeah.
dig into that. Like I would
Yeah.
like that makes me want to think
Yeah.
about that one.
Yeah. Once again, I really like that base of why do I believe it?
Yeah.
So, but
All
yeah.
right.
Hey, I appreciate having you on the podcast. It was an honor. Thank you very much.
Hey, my pleasure, Leah. I You are in my prayers constantly. I know that you are pushing to grow as you move through this industry. And to be honest with you, don't forget about the gap. Look back at where you were and where you are. It's amazing to watch and brings me a lot of joy.
Thanks, Jim.
All right, we'll see you later, Leah.